I know this week was a loss, Chris, but it feels kind of good. Feels kind of good. Just like you stroking your beard right there. Doesn't it feel good?
Beard gang in the building, and it does feel good. This is so weird because a loss felt like a win. I'm excited to talk about the Panthers today. Let's go.
Well, let's not wait any longer. Let's get this sucker started.
The state of North Carolina covers 53,000 square miles. It is the habitat of the feared Carolina Panthers. Get dialed in, Panthers fans, for an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews, locker room insight. Let's huddle up for Panthers Playbook. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. We're going to talk a little bit more about Bryce Young. For those who are listening on your favorite podcast platform, Chris has grown a little bit of peach fuzz. Took him about a month to do it, but he did it.
Whoa, it's not peach fuzz, okay? It's a little past stubble.
Oh,
a little past stubble, and it took
okay.
me 11 days.
Oh,
I got to shave it off right after this because I have to go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl, but I'm enjoying this. This is a beard to me.
Okay. Well, congratulations, sir. Congratulations.
My little past stubble is almost connecting to.
Congratulations. Hey, you know what? Who got a little bit past stubble was Bryce Young on Sunday. He got a little bit past stubble. That was a full-grown man performance from Bryce Young on Sunday. By the way, for those watching on YouTube, make sure you smash the subscribe button and leave your thoughts in the comment section. We're talking about Bryce. We're also going to get into Ben Johnson and reports of the price tag it's going to be to bring him on as the head coach for the Carolina Panthers or for whomever. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. But first, let's go back to Sunday. Bryce Young. There were some mistakes and some things like that we saw early in the game, but overall, especially in the second half, that was the Bryce Young that we've been wanting to see all season. That dude seemed like it clicked for the guy.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. I'm not surprised because after a while, like, first off, he's never shown us before he came to the NFL. He's never shown us that he wasn't capable of playing like this. He always put forward his best foot, and there's a reason why people forget. There's a reason why a lot of folks thought he was going to be the number one pick even before his final year at Alabama, just because of what he put forth on the field. His former Heisman Trophy winner. So let's not forget all of those things at Alabama. Now, of course, you come into the NFL, you're playing against the best of the best. And the folks on, the Panther squad right now, remember, those guys were ballers in college, most of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come to the NFL, a lot of those guys aren't, as good as you think they would be. But Bryce Young is that good. He just needed some time to adjust to the NFL playing style. He needed time to adjust to what his line is and is not. He needed time to adjust to what his coaching staff is and is not. He needed time to adjust to what his receivers are and are not. And that's just what it is. And so now he's starting to get a hang of it. And I think this is a little bit of a preview of what we could see next season.
And I think it's good. And also, I hope that he continues to reciprocate the high-level play. Not necessarily he has to be 300-plus yards the last two games of the season, but reciprocating that high-level play each of the last 2 weeks. Because if you look at Pro Football Focus, they put out grades every single week of players in the NFL. And Pro Football Focus over the last two games, the Atlanta win, the 9-7 win, and the 33-30 loss against Green Bay, Bryce Young his rating was just over 83. This is on a scale of 0 to 100. His rating was 83 according to Pro Football Focus. Fifth highest over the last 2 weeks. So the last 2 weeks combined, his average was 83. Fifth highest in the NFL. Yeah. We wanted to see improvement from Bryce. We're getting the improvement. Now, the improvement might be coming later than what some people wanted, and honestly, probably later than what Bryce and the Panthers wanted. If they're going to talk to you, like, yeah, we want to be playing this early in the season, but
he's still a rookie,
improvement. Exactly.
He's still a rookie.
He's still a rookie, and he's still building, and he's still growing. And I think part of the conversation is because C.J. Stroud started so hot. And I think that's what's really like, wait, hold on. The number 2 pick's putting up these gaudy numbers. Why isn't our number 1 pick doing that? So, again, everyone develops at their own time, and everyone's situation is totally different. So it's good that we're seeing improvement from Bryce, and that's the most important thing. We're seeing improvement. We're seeing growth, and I hope he does this, what we saw Sunday, over the last 2 weeks of the season.
you said the key thing right there. Everybody's situation is different. So CJ Stroud went into a better, more stable situation all around than what Bryce Young did. And so, and it shows on the field. I don't think that the difference in their performance has anything to do with their abilities. They
Yeah.
both have the ability to perform at the very top, but they have two different situations. Now, this was put out by John Ellis, and he did the research on that. So, shouts to him. I want to give him his shout out. But he put this out there. Since week 10, among all quarterbacks with at least 150 pass attempts, Bryce Young has the second lowest interception rate in the NFL at 0.9%. And that's behind Dak Prescott, who has 0.8%. And then another little nugget right there for Bryce Young and what he's been doing over the last 3 weeks. Bryce Young has thrown the second most pass attempts, 96 in the NFL without an interception. The next person above him is Matthew Stafford at 108. Bryce Young has 96, and Tua Tagovailoa is right behind him at 94. Tua Tagovailoa is who our good friend Boomer Esiason kind of gave the comp to when it came down to Bryce Young and what he could possibly turn into. A lot of people, we remember, said that Tua was a bust coming out of
a lot of people said that early.
Alabama. And they said it very early, but also Tua was not in a good situation in Miami at first. All of a sudden, he got the head coach, he got the protection, he got the receivers, he got the weapons all around him and the system. And now Tua Tagovailoa looks like one of the best in the NFL. If the Carolina Panthers can be as smart with Bryce Young as the Miami Dolphins have been with Tua, then we could see a similar ascension. I don't know if we can say the same about the actual offense. That's one of the best offenses we've seen so far with Miami. But, you also need that type of personnel. But you can see that level of play with Bryce if you just get the right people around it. The template is there. We just got to make sure that we follow it. And it also starts with playing well week after week when Jacksonville is the next team coming and they have to go on the road to play against the Jaguars.
All right, so you recall back our conversation with Boomer Esiason about Tua being the comp. Well, like you said, they got a different head coach. They got a different offensive system. They got Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert. They got a bunch of dudes around. Maybe that head coach is Ben Johnson, because there Mike McDaniel, the now head coach of the Miami Dolphins, was the offensive coordinator under Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. Maybe it's Ben Johnson, which is the name linked that even Tepper wanted last offseason, but Ben Johnson said no to everybody across the NFL. He wanted to go back to Detroit. But now the Ben Johnson stuff is resurfacing again, especially with the Carolina Panthers. And the report, according to Josina Anderson she's with CBS Sports now, Josina Anderson, she's reported multiple times that apparently the asking price to hire Ben Johnson, $15 million a year is the asking price. $15 million a year. And if I know there's one guy in the NFL that could pay that much money, it's David Tepper.
And the one guy in the NFL that probably has to pay that money for the right coach
that's the big
is
thing.
David Tepper, because if you look at the history, if you had your choice between let's say if the Raiders don't give it to Antonio Pierce, which they should, but if you had your choice between the Raiders, the LA Chargers, and the Carolina Panthers and the Washington Commanders, I think the Panthers come down last on that list out of everybody, right? Because like if you just look at what's there, and those will be the jobs that we assume the Commanders will be available, and also the Patriots. The Patriots probably will end up being available. Out of all those jobs, the Panthers are lowest on the totem pole, right? And a lot of it has to do with David Tepper. He could just look at himself in the mirror, the way he handled the Ron Rivera thing, which Ron should have been out maybe. But maybe you wait until the end of the season to make that decision.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The way he jumped the gun and went after Matt Rule, you could have let the Giants had him and he would have been gone from the Giants and back in college somewhere. And they could have, dealt with all that. The way that you handled him being fired and then having a guy in place and not hiring him and Steve Wilkes and now jumping the gun and going to Frank Reich and firing him really early. the right coach for the Carolina Panthers is going to Panthers. They're going to have to be paid by David Tepper.
Oh yeah.
I don't care if it's Ben Johnson or anybody else. They're going to need that check. We talked about that with Steve Wilkes. You're going to have to pay because Tepper, I don't trust you. if I'm a prospective head coach.
Yeah.
I know I need to know ahead of time I'm getting my money. Other than that, don't talk to me.
And it's not only him, but it's Scott Fitterer, your general manager. You know, that's the thing as well, is that who's your GM going to be?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's very true.
Whomever that is going to be as well is, I don't know. Maybe you got to go into, for example, you go to Detroit to bring in Ben Johnson, right? Well, why don't you bring the assistant general manager, Ray Agnew? Why don't you bring him with you, the assistant GM? Because you look at what
good point.
Look at what the Detroit Lions have done over the last 3 seasons, right? They got in the head coach. They brought in Dan Campbell. They acquired the Jared Goff, a former #1 overall pick, so they got their quarterback in place, and they've been building to what they've been doing over the last 3 seasons. And there were some people even midpoint of year 2 last season before things really turned around for Detroit that was like, this Dan Campbell guy really ain't worth it. But they stuck with it. Now look at them. They've won a division in year 3 under Dan Campbell with Ben Johnson, who was part of that build. If you have that mindset, bring in Ray Agnew, who is part of the front office there, the assistant general manager, bring him in along with Ben Johnson because there's a relationship there and they can have that plan working together as long as David Tepper is on board with said plan. That's the key part of it is David Tepper is the key piece in all of this. But maybe that's what you do. Bring those 2 guys together.
Also, bring in Cam Newton. so Cam Newton can be like, Dave, stay out of his office.
Yep, stay.
You go back to yours. Me and you will talk. And I'll monitor what they're doing on that side. Leave them alone. They know what they're doing so they can build your team. I think Cam Newton will be an amazing person for that. And maybe just hey, Dave, let's just go out hat shopping. All right, like we're gonna go out hat shopping and get some new hats and get some swag, and we'll talk about football later. Another thing I just wanted to kind of bring up for people, just trying to break that fourth wall a little bit when it comes down to what we do, Dennis, in broadcast journalism. When people say they have sources, and it's somebody like Josina Anderson or Adam Schefter, or I know this isn't football, but Woj. Or
gosh, look at the reports. Look at the report from The Athletic from Joe Person and Diana Rossini.
Diana Rossini, those people, like those reputable reporters, when they say they have sources, they got sources. So don't go underneath their tweets and say, well, the agent said that this wasn't true. Let's separate something really quick. All right, we'll talk about the agent in just a second. Sources could be anybody. It could be the actual agent themselves or the agency, a person that works for that agent that, because a lot of times agents put out stories to help them with their negotiations. So let's remember that. They have friends with people in the media. I've been reached out to by agents before as well who are like, hey, can you do a story on my guy who has no traction right now, right before the draft? Why? Because they want to get them drafted a little bit higher. It's happened, and it does happen. It could be family members. It could be people close to the team, right? People inside the actual headquarters at 800 Mint Street. They want to, hey, can you believe Ben Johnson is telling us already he wants $15 million? You never know who it could come from, right?
That's the thing. I mean, it could be an assistant general manager. It could be someone like a player person. Sometimes these sources are directly GMs themselves.
And it's in everybody's best interest to not be named because they're using the media to talk back and forth to one another, right? And you don't want your name in the middle of the controversy. And also, if you're an agent, your number one job is to negotiate the best contract for your client. You don't negotiate the best for your client by you stating the price first. What you could do is, hey, Josina, I'm gonna be honest. If we go to the Panthers, they're gonna have to come up on 15 mil. But you didn't hear that from me. So Josina is gonna go to Twitter. The Panthers want and they're going to have to pay $15 million for Ben Johnson.
Yep.
And of course, right after, the agent's going to be like, I didn't say that. He's covering his butt, right? Because if he's
That's
the
what you
first
gotta
one
do.
if he's the first one to name a price, you already lost the negotiation. However, Panthers, you read the report, though. The reports are out there. Are we starting right there? Are we not? Because we could go to the Chargers. The Chargers really want him, and Justin Herbert's already established as a quarterback, and he already has receivers around him. So this is going to be a little bit easier for them. So if you really want Ben to come back home, that's how this stuff works. So I just wanted to put that out there for people so they know. Do not rag on these reporters, especially the Josina Andersons, the Joe Persons of the world. They know what they're talking about. There are real sources they are talking to. This is all in the negotiation game at the end of the day because everybody's trying to get their coins.
And here, they're not going to put something out false because it's, their reputation, their outlet that they work for, all is on the line when they do that kind of stuff. So generally, multiple times you actually need multiple sources to say these things in order to report something like that. But yeah, it's 100% negotiation tactic, and of course the agent's not going to say, "Oh yeah, $15 million at least." They're not going to say that publicly right now. They're not. You know why? Because they're going to protect. He's also needs to not only protect himself, the agent, but he's also got to protect his client. And that's the big thing as well. So, and also you just don't want to have it hanging over the head of. Obviously, Ben Johnson's going to be sought after. We all know that it happened last year, but it also just takes a little bit of the pressure off of him. That's really what it does. It takes a little bit of the attention and deflects away from Ben Johnson. So, I don't know. Maybe Ben Johnson is the future head coach of the Carolina Panthers. If he is, awesome, great. I don't know who else it could be, but we'll find out. It's going to be an interesting offseason, but we still got 2 more games left, Chris, including against the Jaguars, who may be without Trevor Lawrence.
Jagwires. Yep,
exactly.
Jaguars.
Okay. Them too.
Yes, I was going to bring that up, but then I got distracted by the Jaguars. Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing for the Carolina Panthers. Remember a few years ago against Frank Reich when the Jaguars played spoilers at the end of the season to the Colts, who just had to win a game and they're in the playoffs. And all of a sudden they weren't in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Carolina Panthers, after firing Frank Reich, could give it back to the Jaguars without Trevor Lawrence in a game that they probably need to win. We'll see what happens when it comes down to stretch. But with the Panthers playing as well as they have been the last couple of weeks, it would be interesting to see them go down to Jacksonville and get a big-time win, especially if Trevor Lawrence is not available to play. So we'll see what happens. And that's something that I'll be watching for, see what the defense ends up doing in that situation.
We'll have another episode for you at Panthers Playbook after that game Sunday against the Jaguars against Jacksonville and old Duval. So we'll have that episode for you right here on your favorite podcast platform or on 99.9 The Fans YouTube page. Again, leave your thoughts in the comment section. Chris, enjoy shaving that beard.
It won't take very long at all.
No, it won't because it's not much of a beard.
Hey. But it's my beard.
It is yours. It'll take me like an hour to grow one of those. We'll see you guys on Sunday.